Okay, welcome back. I'm set up ready here to bind the transmitter and the receiver together, and I'm on page 4 of the manual there. And so here's what we're going to do. But before we start, I want to explain one thing about the DX5 radio. In case you were interested in the DX4 radio, the DX4 radio is slightly smaller, okay? Still has 4 channels, but there's a lot of difference here. This radio has digital trim, so the trim buttons are all digital. This radio has analog sliders, okay? So they slide up and down, and they're not as accurate and harder to use, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't use the DX4 radio except for flying the flight simulator games or something. It is a good radio for flying flight simulator games, but I don't like it for flying with. I don't even like it for a buddy box because it has the analog trim on it. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you about the radio itself. The DX5 radio has some switches down here, and they should all be in the down or normal position, or you got reverse and normal. So they should all be, you can see that they are all in the down position. Make sure that's true before you start. Next thing you need to do is turn on the radio. When you do, look at the battery. Now I'm using rechargeable batteries, so they're always going to be like in the middle position. They're never up 100%, so I got rechargeable batteries in here. And you want to make sure that the trim is in the neutral position. So I'm going to start with this trim. That's the elevator trim. I'm going to push it up a little bit and listen for the beeps. Hope you can hear that. I'm going to get a little closer. Okay. You heard a long beep, so I'm going to count up 3 beeps. 3 beeps down. Okay, that long beep means you're in the center. If you go all the way to the bottom, you hear the lower tone long beep. That means you're at the bottom. That means you're in the middle. And that means you're at the top. So that one's in the middle. So I'm going to make sure they're all in the middle by going, that one's in the middle, up 1, that's in the middle, and this one over here, over 1. So you listen for those tones to make sure the trims are all in the middle. So the trims are in the middle, the switches are down, this is down, and these are spring loaded in the middle, so they're okay. Alright? So that's what you want to make sure is you start with every trim in the middle. In the DX6 radio, you can see visually on the display. This doesn't have a display, so you just have to listen for the beep. Okay. The next is the receiver. Receiver comes in a nice package. You can take it out of its package. Comes with a reasonably good manual. So you might want to read the manual. And the receiver comes with a binding plug, and we'll show you how to use that in a minute. And you have a nice receiver here. Almost dropped it. There we go. So there's the receiver. It's got 2 antennas. It's most full range receivers have 2 antennas, and so you got 6 channels across here. And let me get close to the first one here. Okay, that says bind, BND, and data, DAT. So BND, DAT. Just in case, if you look real close there, you'll see a sort of a away figure, the plus sign, and then the minus sign. That means that the pin on the bottom down here is the minus pin. That's going to be the black wire on any lead. The red wire going to be in the middle, and some other orangish kind of color is the signal wire. So there's your little pattern, say where it is. For a long time, Spectrum always made sure the black wire is at the bottom. I think they have actually put out one now where the black wire is not on the bottom. Don't know why, but we'll find out. I don't know what. We'll see. So we got that. We got this. First thing I want to do is put the bind plug in the bind port. And it doesn't matter. Well, it sort of matters. If you look at a servo wire, okay, I'll show you one of the servo wires in here. The black wire is to the bottom, and when you look at the bottom, you can see the metal on the bottom, and this does have a little slight directional shoulder on it. So I'm going to make sure that I do the same way. So the black wire is to the bottom, and the bottom would be down like I guess let's see. Yeah. Okay, so this directionally should fit this way. Let's find out. Oh, how about that? Fits the other way. Okay, so there's a little, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a little shoulder right there. And if it doesn't fit easily, don't try to force it in, because it has a little shoulder to help with the direction. Okay. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. This receiver just has a really tight fit, or this has a really tight fit, not sure which. But it's a tight fit, but that's okay. I start with, let me see, can you see that? I start with a slight angle, find the first pin, and then just straighten it up and push it in. There we go. And then you got to make sure it's all the way down in, okay, like that. So that's in the bind plug. Now we'll move over to the airplane and plug a few other things in. Okay, looking in the cabin of the airplane here, you see two servos, and you see a wire up here that's from the speed controller that's going to control the motor. The two servos, if you look down in the, let's see if you can see down in there, you probably can't. Okay, so the two servos are the one on this side, the one on the that'd be the left side of the aircraft, crosses over so that when you look down here, okay, it's controlling this push rod right here, and then the one on the right side over there is controlling this one, because they cross in the middle. That's just probably for ease of manufacturing. And so you need to figure out which one is which. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to come back down here. Okay. I'm going to take the rudder. Okay. I'm not going to install it yet, but I'm just going to put it sort of basically where it goes. Okay. So there's the rudder where it's about to go. Okay. And then you can see the control horn for the rudder is on the left side of the aircraft. I'm sorry, yeah, that's the left side of the aircraft. So the control horn is on the left side of the aircraft. That means that this push rod over here is going to control the rudder. And I'm going to move the servo a little bit so you can see that I'm moving the right servo. And then the servo I am moving is right there. So this is the servo I'm moving. And so that is the rudder servo. So I'm going to put a tag on this to say, hey, that's the rudder. So I'll be back in a minute with the tag. Okay, so I've got a little white piece of painter's tape here that I've marked on it, RUDD for rudder. I'm going to put that on this servo right here. Okay, I'm going to take a pair of scissors and trim off the excess. So now I know that that servo goes in the rudder channel because it says RUDD. I'm going to go ahead and label the other one. Okay, I'm back, and just for the initial binding, I'm only going to connect the rudder and the elevator. I'm not going to bother with the aileron servos. We'll do that later. And so you can see the channel here that says elevator. This one over here I have now marked as elevator. So I'm going to plug him in. And remembering black wire goes to the bottom. Also remembering that this is going to be kind of tight here. And I can't see what I'm doing, but I hope you can. Alright, so right there. Alright, I'm going to turn off the camera because the camera's in my way. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. You can see that this wire here is leading up to the front of the aircraft where the electronic speed control that controls the motor is in the second slot, which is the throttle channel. The slot that's open there is for the ailerons, and then you got the elevator and the rudder. And these little leads, the servo wire leads aren't very long, so it's hard to get your fingers in there, but it's doable. So now that those are connected, let me back out here. Let me get the battery in place, and we'll get ready to bind these two together. Okay, got the airplane turned over, and I'm going to get ready to put the battery in the hatch. This is the hatch door for the battery. Lift that up, and you'll see there's some fuzzy Velcro there. That's the loop Velcro. Because I've used this 1300 milliamp battery before in this airplane, I put some hook to go with the loop. So there's hook Velcro on the bottom of this. And so the loop Velcro came with the airplane. And it came with this Velcro, black Velcro strap here. So I'm just going to put it in there someplace nice and easy to get to. Okay, and I'm not going to do much to hold it down because it'll hold down very well by itself. But basically that's going to hold with the Velcro. So now the next steps are going to be to plug these two things together, and that will. And then I'm going to turn the airplane over, and you'll see that the receiver is flashing. Then I'm going to grab the radio and turn it on. The radio, the DX5 radio, says a trainer switch here. Well, that trainer switch is also the bind switch. So I'm going to pull this trainer switch up forward before I turn it on, then turn it on, and that will put it in bind mode. So if we're ready, here we go. Now I'm going to leave the hatch open because this battery's not going to fall out. Notice the lead here and the lead here isn't very long, so you got to get it flat side to plug in. And here we go. Okay, so that's plugged in. And if I turn this over, you can see that it's flashing. It's a little hard to see, but the little light there is flashing. I'm going to turn this on, pull this, turn that on. And there, you heard the last 3 beeps. That means everything is connected. And so the light, I guess you can see the light better there. Hard to see that light, not very bright. Yeah, okay. I can see it, I hope you can. We'll see it later. But when you heard the 3 beeps, that was the electronic speed control saying, okay, we're armed. Now, first thing is, don't touch the throttle, because that thing will start spinning, okay? But what I am going to do is move the elevator up and down. So elevator goes up and down, and that servo moves. And I'm going to move the rudder stick without pushing up the throttle. And you can see, okay, so you can see that I move the rudder servo is moving. I move the elevator servo is moving. And just for grins, I'm going to hold on to the airplane and touch the throttle. And you could hear it, you can probably see it. I'm going to hold on to the airplane and barely touch the throttle. And why I'm doing that is I want to feel the wind blowing against my hand here. So I'm going to move the throttle up a little bit. It's blowing on my hand. So the ESC is going in the motor is going in the proper direction. So we now have the 2 things bound, and that's all we need to do right now. Guess what? I'm back. I forgot one step. Okay, the radio is still on. Put it way out of the way so you don't bump the throttle. And unplug the battery first. You always unplug the battery before you turn off the radio. So the battery is unplugged, so the airplane is not going anywhere. Now I'm going to turn this off. And then the most important step, not to forget, is to pull out the bind plug. There we go. So the bind plug is out. Don't leave that in. Otherwise the thing will go in bind mode again. So battery unplugged first. Turn the radio off. Unplug the bind plug last, and we're now done. Thank you. Okay, I'm back, and one last thing before we finish up on the binding is I want to make sure you hear the tones that the electronic speed control makes. Let me move a little bit closer here. I want to make sure you hear the tones the electronic speed controller makes when you power it up. So what I'm going to do is make sure everything is off and neutral. I'm going to power this up first, like you normally should do. And I'm going to turn the airplane over. And then, sorry, guess I would have tightened down the camera here. Alright, so I'm now going to plug it in and listen for the tones. Okay, beep, boop, 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 ba-da-doop. And the last triple set of tones there, the increasing triple set of tones, is that the speed controller is saying, yep, I'm good to go. This is a good airplane. I like that the throttle is at 0, basically. And that's how it works. Now, always unplug the airplane first. And then you can turn off the radio. I'm going to explain one thing I didn't realize this wasn't explained well. On page 4 in the binding procedures reference table, step 5, I'll read it. Connect the flight battery to the ESC. ESC will produce a series of sounds, one long, then 3 short tones, confirming that the LVC is set for the ESC. Well, what's an LVC? That means it's the low voltage cutoff. So the electronic speed control monitors, it knows that it's a 3-cell, and it monitors the low voltage, and so the low voltage cutoff, I think, is 3.3 volts per cell. So that would, for 3 cells, that would be 9.9. So if the battery ever gets down to 9.9 volts for a 3-cell battery, guess what? The ESC says, all right, goodbye, shuts everything down, and that's when your airplane crashes. So there's a low voltage cutoff. The battery doesn't die. The ESC cuts it off, saying, hey, you're too low, and to protect the battery, but crashes the airplane. So just want to make sure you understood what LVC means right there. Thank you. And that concludes page 4, and actually page 5. We've done the battery installation and ESC arming. So we're done with page 4 and 5. I'm back and I'm going to add one more thing to this binding process. I don't think I explained very well the failsafe down here on the bottom of page 4. Just to explain it in a little more detail. The receiver and the transmitter are always talking to one another, and it can go for, you know, really only a split second before it goes, all right, where are you? Both of them go, if they lose touch with one another, then they go into what's, they do a quick search, see if I can find it again. But if the battery in your transmitter just died, for example, then it would go into failsafe mode. The airplane would return to the neutral positions as set in step 3 over here, which means the rudder, elevator, and ailerons all go to neutral, and no matter what the throttle is, going to go to the low position, and then your airplane's just going to slowly dive into the ground. So that's failsafe. It's a good thing. You got to have something that says, hey, if this thing isn't being properly controlled, head on into the ground. Okay, thank you.